Hello, everybody. Welcome back once more to a little more Faceit League action. We had a nice little South American game earlier on to get things started, cleanse your palates, and now we're here to finish the day with North America Dexatron. Got a match here between Link, yeah, The Legend of Zelda, between Wink and Elemental Normal, two teams that so far, teams that have come up from that extra division so far that have had a really good run, and honestly, I think have surprised the both of us.
Yeah, honestly, we've been really impressed with a lot of the teams that have come up from that expert division last year, especially through the LCQ. We get a little bit more of them in the season this year. And for the most part, I think they've probably exceeded a lot of the teams, a lot of people's expectations for them here. I mean, you look at a team like Vivacity, I believe they're now 4-1 to start off this season. They are looking really good, or at least 3-1 to start off this season, looking very good. And like me and you talked about it a little bit after our South American game. If Vivacity wins one more game, you have to feel like they're safe to at least stay in Masters tier this season. However, you look at Wink and Elemental Normal here. Wink has definitely some names that if you've been around for a little bit, you definitely do know. Saint X, Eevee, Mickman, Nadokado. I mean, those are some names, Smarties. Those are some names you've definitely heard if you've been around Faceit for a little bit. However, Elemental Normal on the other side, they do have some names, but you have to kind of have to be watching experts here for the last season to really know most of them here. I believe we know Mookie a little bit and EXO. But outside that, a lot of these players are brand new names to me. But like you said, both these teams have gone off to great starts here so far.
Yeah, 100%. That Wing team, formerly I think in the qualifiers, for the
Who's
Master
not
was
Okado?
yeah, who was not Okado. So nice name, but Wink think was just as well. But both these teams looking to go 3-1 after tonight. We'll see who's going to be able to pull it off as we'll get ready for our first map set in place. Now, obviously, we have already had the, I believe, the pleasure of covering normal once before already. At least to my,
No.
have we not? I've seen one of their games. That's what it was. I
Yeah.
watched them
We
play. It. To be fair, this team, as I brought up before, I met it into introspectives, the expertise that come up don't have the greatest of success usually, but these are two teams right now that have started in a pretty prime position, got that really good start to them, and it can't be overstated how important that is, especially for teams that have to find their footing early in a scenario like this.
Yeah, you'd rather find your footing early than have to be forced to find your footing about halfway through the season, because you start looking at the games like, oh wow, we're going up against a lot of teams that are currently sitting above us in the standings, and it just becomes something where it starts to kind of weigh on you a little bit more, forces out maybe some play you don't necessarily want to see. So the fact that both these teams have got off to a really good start here so far is a big benefit to them here, because hey, they can come into these series a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more confident in their play, and that's exactly what you want to be seeing here. Not a surprise, though, that Li Jiang is going to be our first map of the night. Hell, it's in the map pool. It's going to probably get picked about 90% of the time. But still, still waiting on really sides and bands here for this map.
Yeah, we'll see what comes through as waiting for Wing to kind of pick side over here, which again, just taking time. Again, you're giving all this time to a lot for very good reason. But we'll see shortly how it will go, as Wink is going to have the first ban to get things started. We saw in our South American series that Kiri was that back-to-back ban for both teams, so no Kiri got played on those first two maps at all. Which, to be fair, I feel like we've seen that quite a few times in instances where a character just universally we were decided, yeah, we just don't want to have to play this character.
Yeah, it was Kiri earlier tonight in South America, and then I believe last week we had one where it was double Zarya, and then another series where it was double Lucio back to back. So again, you're really seeing those really strong meta heroes get banned out double times here, which is something that we didn't see a lot last season. But I feel like a lot of teams now are trying to drag us away from what is currently looked as maybe the strong meta, some that they're a little bit more comfortable on. I mean, hell, we did see Hazard do a really good job in our South American series, and like I mentioned in that series, you see Team Peps doing it in OWCS. While they haven't had the success, you can really start to see why people are really struggling against it at times, but they're able to adapt quickly. We did not see that adaptation down in South America earlier today. However, one hero we won't be seeing, at least in our first map here tonight, is going to be the Emre. And right now, Hunter, I mean, me and you have seen Emre now a lot. Very, very strong hero. And like I said earlier, again, in South America, kind of on that same level of damage that launched Freya was at, where it seems like you're really not doing a lot, but then you look at the stats and you have 3,000 more damage than everyone else in the lobby.
Yeah, that Emre is really good at just pumping in all of that damage. It's seen at the highest level of play what that Emre can do. And to be fair, I'm sure at some point today we're going to have that exact same situation come to form. Maybe Emre becomes our new Kiriko for this series, for all we know. And honestly, given the character, wouldn't surprise me in the absolute slightest. We'll see what ends up coming to mind, though, as that second ban has gone through. We'll just simply have to wait and see what it'll be.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you have the tank and you have the DP, the support line there left open. I mean, it would be very interesting to see the Zarya get banned out again. I feel like Diva, though, might be one you kind of leave out there, just because without the Emre there, Diva still finds a lot of value. So you might get rid of that one to say, like, hey, we might be trying to force the Zarya Vendetta composition. On the other hand, you go to support line, you get rid of something like Lucio, you force more Juno to get played, you force Wu Yang to play, you force out the Kiri, you get more Brig, you get, I mean, how we even saw a little bit of Ana earlier on. But I mean, there's good options here for both these teams, and it could be something where you see very much a protection ban come in. Yeah, granted, very early on in the night, but still, you have seen it happen before where second ban is, weirdly enough, a protection ban.
Yeah, no, 100%. We'll see what the route ends up going. It's worth noting these teams do have a full rally of subs available for them. Yeah, full 8 for both of these squads. So definitely do have abilities to say, like, hey, they've banned this, we have this person that can come in and play this. You definitely have your options, and I think both teams, are very willing to use them when needed be. But obviously, we'll just have to see what ends up going down as we're waiting for these lineups to finalize. Again, with them both being full teams, gotta just take a moment to decide, like, yeah, this is the 5 we want. We want to lock in with this. But it should be really interesting to get things started with both of these teams. Again, early success for them both right here, and especially the tear that Elemental Normal has kind of been on. They put themselves in a really good position early on. I'm excited to see if they can go in today and, again, capitalize off of some of the momentum that they have gained in very near interests. Again, that win against Artemis, I think, is really big for them. You could say what you will, but that really is a big win for them to be able to take away.
Yeah, especially against a team like Artemis that has been around Faceit League, especially the Masters now for the past, I think, since me and you started covering back in Season 5. That's a team that has been here through very different compositions, different rosters as well. They've been able to stay in Masters tier, which is something that's a lot harder to do than a lot of people, I think, put out there, because one bad season, one bad meta, and you have definitely seen some teams just fallen out of favor in the past. But as we head into our first map of the night, we'll be getting started off here on Control Center. And I mean, with the Orisa being the second ban here, are we going to be seeing more of that Zarya play? Well, it looks like we're at least going to be seeing that here from Elemental Normal. On the other side, though, for Wink, Eevee currently hovering over the ball. It's going to be really interesting to see if they stick on that here, especially because I feel like Control Center, it might be one of the maps that ball does work on a decent amount. However, you can also get punished here a decent amount as well, just because of the close corridors and maybe the hard grapple spots.
Yeah, definitely so. But we'll see how things get started out the gate here. You see Rubber over on that Zarya, and Eevee starting out over on, with the Wrecking Ball. That'll make things fascinating. And I think the whole idea here, Dex, is to play this really loose style when you're running things like the ball, like the far, that can move around, that can really just get all this distance and be untouchable in a lot of senses.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of already see them right now. They're kind of setting up on the outside of the map, really just trying to force Elemental Normal to go over to that side of the map. Eventually, though, they're going to have to make their way towards point. As Eevee already just quickly rolling around.
Yep, already struggling quite a bit. We'll see what ends up coming to form, though. You see, again, Mickman is kind of getting forced over to that high ground to kind of have to hide away more and more and more. But eventually, someone has got to bend. Somebody is going to have to break to get things started. The red being over on the Reaper makes this a really interesting play, because it means you can only have such a level of aggression going into this backline. You're going to get pushed out eventually by something like the Reaper. But as you can see right now, point close to capping over. Eventually, it will go over to Wing to get things started here. So again, just a little bit of care going over on towards the point. But eventually, someone has to go down. I don't think anybody has actually died yet, Dex.
No, no one's died just yet, and both these teams playing very safe, even though you would really expect that Wrecking Ball to kind of be just rolling through everyone right now. Eevee's playing it very safe. They don't want to necessarily go in there because they know that composition that we're seeing here is just one that could absolutely punish a little bit of an over-aggressive ball play.
100% account right now. Bigman gets hit with the body. Doesn't go down as a result, though. Kitsune Rush, by the way, going to be available here for Mookie, and Navilia not too far behind the other side. This is going to go across the point, but it's going to cost them to basically get the flip. Now, the problem is, Saint is actually down, so you will have to cause, like, a slight reset, but now you're going to have the Kitsune ready for your side.
You got the Kitsune right out for your side. You're also going to have Barrage, Beat, Mines. You're in a really good spot here. Nanokado, they're going to be able to shut down Jazza early on. That's the go button here.
Yes, it is right now, and now those bubbles are going to get broken quickly. Sound barrier's out, but not in time to get the Brad, and now Sound Barrier thrown back in return, really to just solidify this fight away. This is really just a stall game coming up here for Elemental Normal. They'll be able to match out on that 31%. Sound Barrier, at the very least, does get traded out, so you're coming up with pretty even ultimates here.
I understand the use of the Sound Barrier there for Wink, but I would honestly have been holding on to that one, especially with Bruber coming up here now to their grab. There's really nothing on the other side now that can really negate that. You don't have an eat there of a D.Va. If you catch more than 2, that's basically a lost fight here. So the beat now could be one that an ultimate you really want back here, but still 3 ultimates online here for Wink. They're not necessarily in the worst spot, but they now need to kind of play a little bit aggressively here.
Definitely need to. And you have the ability to. Bigman goes in really aggro. Doesn't get anybody. Graviton Surges out there. It's only going to catch on to, I think, 1 ultimate land. Nanokado goes down as a result of everything going down. And now, this is really just even trying to stall for as long as possible. Uses the mine, so he's trying to get this winnable, but Chaz has already got rid of 2. And all you can do if you're Eevee is just get out of there, take your reset. 77% going to be on the board here. Nanokado with the overclock to match Chazza.
Yeah, but you look at Brad here, having this Death Blossom ready to go. You're going to have to be watching all the corners here for them, as Eevee going to be at least trying to back gap here for a little bit, buy them some time, but now they need to be able to get an overclock coming out here from Nanokado early on, just trying to buy them some space and maybe find a pick.
Yeah, Jasmine letting the overclock go as well. Eevee, tough situation to be in right now, is going to be able to back out momentarily, but Nanokado is, again, the one to kind of get this opening pick to put them in a really good position. Fight's not over quite yet, though. Jazz is trying to hang around there, but she's focused out as Kitsune Rush going to be used here by Mookie, and Navilia, unfortunately, is quite a little whiles behind on it, so this is going to cause a little bit of a back out. Try to build up towards it. This is where you poke for a few seconds, and then you just int with it.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do that, but I think Brad is holding on to that Death Blossom for exactly that little int that they're going to get from the Kitsune Rush coming out here. It would work perfectly for them if they get it off, but however, I think Brad's going to be one that everyone on the side of Wink is watching out for.
Yep, and now we're seeing if there's going to be a free flip. No, just in time as they're going to Sound Barrier, and oh, that does not work, unfortunately. That does not work at all, and now Eevee is hanging around the point. Sound Barriers, use it now. This is where you're going to see all the aggression come to the nth degree to force everybody back, but still, Rubber staying alive is really important. Unfortunately, Dex isn't able to do so, and now the touch feels a little uncertain.
And the touch is going to have to come out from Brad, who I believe St. Dex knows where they are. Yep, they are. Right for him, trying to get themselves here. Going to have to keep on the point. Not going to be able to make. You do see the ball coming back out here, or Brother coming back out on the D.Va. Mayhem, though, will get a touch here, so we will at least have an overtime, but you're already down 2.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can get a couple of touches now back over on the D.Va. Unfortunately, you just don't have the damage to be able to reciprocate anything right now, so Rubber's just really going to be stalling on this point, hoping somebody like the Brad can come back and help again, but the boop is perfectly timed, and that's going to be able to close out this first round, 100-89. Incredibly back and forth, though, to get things started for these squads right here, but there is a certain amount of patience that Wink was really using in some of these fights.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to the entire first engagement here. That one lasted about 2 minutes, which is a rare thing to see, especially on a map like Lijiang Tower, a map that you have played so many times. You know what to kind of expect every fight. It seemed like there was that moment there where it was something that maybe Elemental Normal had never necessarily seen before. That kind of patience, especially coming out from a ball composition. But when you look at that DPS line there of that Pharah and Soj, it doesn't surprise you because they're looking for that burst potential, a rocket, a railgun, something that opens it up. But everyone there was playing very, very safe, trying to make sure they're not putting themselves in any danger here. No big swaps though, as Brother gonna be sticking here with the D.Va. Jazz though going over to the Freya instead here, as you're already starting to see Eevee try to get these boops. Yeah,
you would love to find it early on, but you see he's using that shot to kind of force everybody back already, as if he's going to go in and try to find some moves, it's not really going to happen, as you can kind of clearly see, and forced out really quickly as well. It's going to be a lot easier, I think, Rubber being over on this D.Va to kind of find that impact and deal with him a lot easier, as Jazza gets the double shot over onto Mickman, and right there, that first point flip should be able to come through, but still there is some chaos, as they haven't capped yet, and finally they'll be able to do so.
You're going to be able to right here. Eevee finding Jazz out. Not really going to do much here, but losing Saint X is going to really slow down what Wink wants to do here. Again, this is a team, especially composition, wants to move fast, but getting rid of Rubber is huge now. You're looking for Wink just to go in all speed or full speed ahead.
That's what you're hoping for. You're trucking on forward. Brad is dead, and now this just be the stall to kind of close things out here, right here, as Mookie won't be able to escape. Quick reset, only 17% available.
And I mean, right now you're seeing someone who is a very much a specialist with this Wrecking Ball. And Eevee's just doing a good job of it. Hasn't died just yet. And you're seeing them be able to build up speed really fast, cause a lot of disruption. Not playing Wrecking Ball how we would normally see it, where they're just trying to roll through, maybe get a little bit of damage in there and hope their team is able to clean up. No, they're coming in playing a very, very smart Wrecking Ball, very safe Wrecking Ball instead. And I think it's one that very much benefits how Wink is playing here.
100% it is. Now you see them pushing over on the point. A lot of people hanging in the back. Brad is just completely alone, though, is pushed out, and now Eevee's going to be able to touch again and just permanently stall this out for them to win the 5v4. They're in a really good position. You can maybe focus on trying to get Kitsune Rush. You're slightly ahead of the race right now, but if you don't manage to get Brad back, I don't know how worth it realistically is.
It's going to be hard here. But again, this is the most stallable point in the entire game.
Ooh.
Bullet shot going to come out there, land on Nanakado. Did have the overclock ready to go here. And this might be a spot here where right now, even if you're Wink down now too, you're just going to stall it out as long as you possibly can. Eevee, though, finally going to die for the first time here, as it will be the point being flipped back over. But you'll take that fight there, I think, if you're Wink. You didn't use any ultimates, granted. You did get one out from the other side, but still, I think both teams are happy with how that fight went. You have 4 ultimates now if you're normal. Just knowing that you're going to have a lot sustained with those ultimates coming up here. Beat Kitsune Rush, the bomb especially. Brad, this Death Blossom did not find the value at all on the first point. Need to be able to find something here this time around, but watch out for this pulse bomb from Mickman early on, because that's going to be an opener.
Yep, and there's a lot of ultimates available. We've already got 3 out on the scene. Double Kitsune Rush. Nanakado trying to find some targets, is able to eventually get the D-Mech over onto Brubber, who's going to try to remech. Will be able to do so very successfully. So, but it's not done yet. There's still plenty available right here. Brad wasn't able to have a lot of success last time with that Death Blossom. Would love to find a little bit more here. And unfortunately, such a thing does not exist. So now it might be down to Mickman now, who has a Pulse Bomb still in hand. The only ultimate still available. And it's looking like, Dex, it's going to be enough for them to clean things up, as Brubber taken out of the mech, sent back to the spawn room. Going to be a crispy 69% online.
Yeah, a very costly fight there for both teams. 4 ultimates coming out there from normal, 3 ultimates coming out there, or essentially really 4 ultimates coming out there from Wink in that fight. Both teams understood how much that fight was worth to this entire point here. Mickman does have Pulse Bomb ready to go. Jazza built up to another Bola here pretty early on. As you start to see Normal go through White Room, watch out for Jazza trying to find that stick, the Bola shot stuck on someone like Nanakao, someone like Saint X here. You need to get rid of someone with the Bola shot. We know how weak it is of an ultimate. You need to be able to find one of those squishy targets.
Yeah, maybe we would love to catch on to somebody right here. Jazza would literally be the perfect target, realistically speaking. But Jazza's already is incredibly low. Eventually can be forced out a little bit. Cleanse no longer available. The Pulse Bomb is going to miss, but it still connects over onto Brubber, unfortunately. No remech to be found, but still managed to get the Elim over onto Mickman. Keeps them alive. No recontention coming back either right now, so they still need to capitalize because Brubber bring out a mech. This is your time to strike it with the mines. They're going to clear out a ton of strength right now. Brad, of all people, ends up going through. Remech available for Brubber. Unfortunately, they're not going to get it. And with 99%, it's the ball cleaning things up, and that should call it curtains. Wink are going to take away your first map.
Yeah, man, not even going to be able to get back to the point right there. And what was a really back and forth first point kind of just goes away here a little bit on the second point. Yeah, it was still a good performance there by Normal to at least get it and make it competitive. But Wink, you could just kind of feel that entire second point. They felt in control more than what we saw there from Normal. Normal, they really won. They won some fights there on that second point. But I mean, again, it's just it's that Gardens map of Lijiang where you lose 1 or 2 people and you're normally seeing teams completely back out if they don't have control of the point. And we saw Wink do that even with control of the point because they understand this composition as a whole is so much stronger than what we were seeing there from Normal. That Wrecking Ball especially. Highlighted there a little bit. Eevee only had 1 death that entire map, which for Wrecking Ball, a hero that can be very much punished punished at any time by just maybe 2 people looking at them, did a really good job. And I mean, I don't know how often you were watching Eevee there, but they were being able to get up to high momentum very, very quickly in a short amount of time just by grabbing onto maybe some of the smaller stuff in the map around it there. It was really, really fun to see that play.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal watching that, genuinely. So, in the scenario that they're in right now as well, I love the route that they kind of go down. Now, obviously, they're going to be cut down from the knees very quickly as the Wrecking Ball ends up being banned out. Which, to be fair, considering what happened, it's not much of a surprise that you pulled the trigger that quickly, is it?
It's too much of one. That's the problem, I think, here. Especially, like, we didn't even say what map it is. It's Atlas. Atlas is our next map. And yeah, you can play Wrecking Ball on this map. I don't think, though, it's the best Wrecking Ball map, especially when you look at Flashpoint maps. I think maybe it might be the second best. I mean, if I say third best, there's only 3 Flashpoint maps. I just don't think it's the best one. You look at some of these points where Wrecking Ball, I think, struggles a little bit on it. There's just too much stuff in the way. I think First Point, it definitely could be a good one, but I think there's just too much close corridors that the Wrecking Ball could really get punished out here. I think maybe you want to hold on to this one for a little bit later down the line. And get rid of something else, say maybe the Soj, maybe the Trace, or maybe the Kiri that we saw him playing, or hell, maybe even just the Lucio here. Try to make sure you get rid of some of that speed. But hey, if it works out for normal, they know a little bit more than I do. So if it works out, it's going to be great. Wink, they have their ban in. We'll let you know when we know it here. But right now, I mean, I'm looking at the performances for everyone there in that first map. Everyone did really good. I mean, I'm looking at most damage went to Nato Kato, who played that Soj throughout the majority of the map, and they were constantly being a part of every fight.
Oh yeah, consistently. Now the question is, you do so good on Soj, the M-Ray is available again. Do you even decide to go with the M-Ray? The Soj works out really well, and I think this is another point where the Soj can definitely continue to work out really good as well. But that M-Ray's really hard to stay away from, isn't it? It's just one of those characters that, in the current state, is difficult enough to deal with, but that ultimate is rough to shut down. The only thing that can realistically shut it down is a D.Va, honestly. That's why we see, like, D.Va M-Ray and then Zarya Vendetta. Those have been, like, the 2 big combos as of recent times.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun to see those combos. It really has been. But M-Ray right now, I think even not outside of its ultimate, it's just really strong. You have to remember when M-Ray was first put in the game at the start of the season with the 4 other heroes as well, M-Ray was looked at as maybe the worst one because it just felt like you were hitting people with a feather duster. They buffed him, and look at the change that we had there almost instantly, where Emre is now maybe the strongest hero in the game here. But second ban coming through here for Wink, gonna get rid of the Vendetta, which, hey, I like this idea from them. They're trying to really make sure the Zarya doesn't get any play right now, but it's really interesting considering that, you know, we saw Elemental Normal play the D.Va throughout that entire one. Zarya's normally looked as a really good counter, and you would have to expect that that D.Va will be coming back out here for normal, unless we're going to be seeing Domino, which would definitely work on some of these points with some close corridors, tight walkways. That Domino would find a decent amount of value here.
Yeah, it definitely would, but ready to get into Atlas again. No ball, no Vendetta. And we'll see how things end up changing here. The lineups, though, as you could tell, no changes there. Either going to stay in with that Wrecking Ball not being available, and we'll see what ends up coming to form. Potentially the D.Va going to be starting things out instead, but I mean, nothing's locked in until we get into things, but potentially Winton Overwatch time has gotten back from the vacation over at Horizon Lunar Colony?
This is just a hologram. I don't know how I feel about the Winston pick on this map in particular. I feel like you don't normally see a lot of Winston on this map. You do see D.Va just because I think D.Va's strong, but I think Winston is going to be a tough one to get going here. You're going to need a lot of help, but granted, we talked about how good McMahon. Yeah, we talked about how good McMahon and Natakado were on that first map. I think the Winston could really work if your DPS line's able to kind of pick up a little bit of slack here, but Brubber coming out here on the Zarya, it's kind of what we expected to see, even without the Vendetta here. Still, you're going to have Brad, who's been really much hovering over this Reaper, which, again, is maybe another reason why you just wouldn't expect to see this Winston come out here for Wing.
Yeah, Winston, I think, is a gamble on a map like this right here, and you already take a weird trade to get things started. Mookie's trying to hang around, and eventually he's going to be able to, but it's running to this Reaper that's going to make things the most difficult, because while it might not realistically take you out, it's going to force Eevee out of the spike consistently.
Yeah, and I just don't think there's enough healing, especially as Brad's gonna be able to shut down Saint X. I think Evie now is either looking for the escape, or honestly, I think a death would actually be more beneficial for them here. But no, they're gonna be able to get out alive, and they're gonna stick with the Winston here, which I'm a little bit surprised by. I just think the composition that you're seeing here now from Elemental Normal is just a little bit too oppressive against the Winston without a full coordinated dive from your team here, which, as you can already see, they're rotating around, but McMahon at least trying to back cap point.
Yeah, right now it has so much pressure on it. Eventually you see the drop come down. Multiple people going to drop down, so the high ground control is going to come through here for Wink. But you got to capitalize on it. Hey, getting rid of the Brad, that is definitely a great way to be able to do so. Now you leave Berber, Berber over on the point instead, and now everyone else is separated as a result. And by everyone, it's Brubber who's really separated. It's low, burning away, eventually going to fall over. Point flips at 87% on the board. Everyone else, though, should be able to get out, or at least have a good shot to. But Mookie going down does not bode well.
But you find Nadokado out here. I think a little bit of a quick disengage and then re-engage here for Normal should be what they do, especially with what they have coming up here with that Kitsune Rush. But you look over at the other side, Pulse Bomb already ready here for Mickman. That could be something that finds a pick early on and maybe just shuts down an entire team fight before it even happens here.
Definitely could do so. We'll see what comes to form, though, as Jazz are trying to burn through eventually. McMahon does have a Pulse Bomb ready to go and has the recall at availability as well. But it's those support elements that are going to be big, and Mookie lets it rip right away with this Kitsune Rush. But losing Jazz this early, it's not going to do much for them here. Rubber needs to be kept up throughout this entire thing as well right now. Unfortunately, Cleanse isn't there in time. They're going to get cleared out. And with these late deaths, unfortunately, this first point should be decided.
Yeah, it should be, unless you get a really quick re-engage here, which I don't think is even possible. But you look at what Normal has here. If they can get back, they have Grab, they have Override, they have Beat, they have Death Blossom. I just don't think it's going to happen. What a TP there by the Brad. And yeah, it's just not going to happen there. Unfortunately, however, they're still going to have all four of those ultimates ready to go into the next point. And I think this composition that you're seeing here from Normal is one that once it gets control of point, it's going to be very hard to get away from them. Granted, I understand it happened on the first point where we did see Wink come in and win a team fight to get it away from them. But I think especially on this point where if you could section off the Winston away from the rest of Wink, it would be a benefit. It would be great here. As Pulse Bomb coming out there from Mickman's going to find nothing but the pavement. Yeah,
but Brubber is being forced into the corner by the ulting Winston, and now Jess is going to go for it here. Again, no D.Va to really prevent a lot of that damage that can come through, but still, it's just not going to find enough. Realistically, I say that, though, Mickman goes down as a result the last second. This thing back into a 3v3. Nadokado gonna try to change his back around, and so far doing a really good job at it, trying to find the flip and force it over, and that they will be able to do.
Mayhem and Mookie, the only ones getting that beat right there. It's just not good there for Normal. You put yourself into a good spot coming into one. Yeah, you could argue that the Override protocol maybe came out a little bit too early there, but the beat, though, is one you definitely want back here. Grab those still online, which could turn the fight on its head here, but they're going to be able to get the point flip for free.
Yeah, if you stick around even a second longer, that one's cooked. And to be fair, it's cooked anyway. Saint goes and gets taken care of. You saw Mickman who's hanging around on the point behind there, but he's going to really struggle to stay alive, and you're bringing good pressure and all, but Brubber is so low, you just can't find the finish. And until you get rid of one of these two, this fight's never going to go your way.
You find Nadokado, though, which look at what that does here to Wink already. They're just going to fall back, completely just regroup here. They're going to have Kitsu, they're going to have Pulse Bomb, they're going to be in a good spot here, not that far away from Beat as well, but you still look at Brubber, does have the grab online. You really need to use that before Saint X builds up to their Beat, because that's going to be something that completely negates that ultimate right away here. But still, you have this composition that, like I said before, I think is a little bit better at holding on to the point. However, you can't lose people like that.
No, you certainly cannot. But now 70% is still on the board. It's still winnable right now. Usually the Kitsune Rush is going to buy you a little more time, but Nivali is likely going to use it here in a few seconds to kind of counteract it. I think even the 4v4, you go for it. And 100% they're going to, and Brad's going to wait for the opportunity because now, back in action, has a Death Blossom ready. And to be fair, there's not been a single Death Blossom that has worked out quite yet. But if there's a time for it to ever happen, this is definitely it right here, as they're going to try to keep pushing the way onto the point, one after another. Saint goes down, though, early on. Puts them in a rough situation as Mickman gave up over on the Tracer, back over onto the Pharah. But for this point, it's cooked away. They're going to tie this thing up 1-1.
Yeah, and like I said, outside that first point where I think dive really does work out, I've said it before twice now, that I think the composition that you're seeing here from Elemental Normal is a little bit better, just being able to hold on to the point. You saw it there. Good job by both Mookie and Mayhem being able to keep Rubber and the Brad up in some of those situations. But that's what you need from those from your support lines, being able to really keep up your tank, especially in a fight like that. But now you look at this going into the next point here. You get up overclock, still that Death Blossom and beat ready for Mayhem. Even though Ori diving in, they have that Primal Rage here, so they can play aggressively.
They definitely can. They have the ults for it right now. Again, Death Blossom's still there, and it's in a tight-knit spot right now. Brad's definitely just waiting for the situation to come through. Boop is now out. It could potentially be here, but unfortunately, he's just constantly playing a game of Dead by Daylight, trying to run around, and Avocado finds a little bit of help right there as Brad being taken care of right now. Jazza trying to bounce back. That was already gotten rid of 2. Gets rid of a 3rd. Navocato's not in a great spot down here. Is eventually finished off, and that is a big clear, a much-needed fight win.
And again, you got 3 ults out there from Wink. If you're normal, you love that fight. You only use 2. You're going to have Grab. You're going to have Kitsu. Brad still holding on to this Death Blossom. I mean, there's nothing on the other side other than just good communication and maybe a nice railgun shot that stops Brad now. And if you're the Brad, this is your opportunity to find something, as you already kind of see him just setting up in a corner as the rest of the team pulls attention away from them. But Brad get to show themselves out here. However, 42% and counting right now for normal, and really nothing coming up here for Wink in this fight, and probably the next one as well. This could be a really good momentum boost here for them.
100%. It could be, as yeah, that is, ooh. That's rough to have to deal with right there, but they're clearing things out. 70% on the board, as you're going to have a couple late picks coming through as Saint will go down. And realistically, while you do get rid of 1, that should be enough to lock this 3rd point in.
Mickman is over there kind of just hanging around. They could go for a touch, but I don't think it would be the smartest thing. You know where the point's going to be going since we already went all the way across the map, and it looks like that's exactly what Wink is going to get doing here. Just go straight over to the next point, get set up on it there. However, you're walking into a fight here if you're Wink where well, Elemental Normal has 4 ultimates going into it, and you're really only going to have Barrage here early on. Novella could really build up to that Kitsune Rush, but still, you might want to hold on to that one for the following fight. But I think for this Wink team and how they're playing right now, you need to get control of the point first, and then just hold on to it for as long as you possibly can. Granted, yeah, that's fork found in kitchen type of statement, but you just need something to go your way here early on.
You do. There's a lot of ultimates available as well. You have so much ready air expenditure to make this work. And the Death Blossom, and again, won't find value as Brad gonna go down on it once more, but still have a chance to at least get the initial touch. You get the point in your favor, but now you're in the 5v4. You need to play for survival, and you have that Graviton Surge still available, but unfortunately, there's a sound barrier available, and it's used, unfortunately. The question is Saints going to invest here? The answer so far is going to be no. Eventually taken care of, and Jazza, again, is clearing bodies off. Eevee is doing damage, though. Gotten rid of 2. It's back into the 2v1. Trying to make it to a 1v1. Unfortunately, it will not happen eventually. Should be taken care of, but the reload is there as Brad will get the finish to clear this fight out.
I mean, a lot of ultimates thrown out there. Could have gone either way, but great plays coming out there from Elemental Normal to be able just to win that fight. And you got a lot of ultimates out from the other side. 3. Eevee now getting off the Winston, going over to the Orisa. I would like to see this a little bit earlier when that Winston was really struggling to find some value. It might be a little bit too late now for this Orisa to truly get going, as Brubber going to be already highly charged. No matter what, Eevee's not going to be able to not going to be able to really do anything about the damage.
Yeah. And right now you're going in, and that's the shot you needed right there. Navocado gets rid of 1, and now realistically this is going to be the overtime touch coming through to clear things away as Brad just has to kind of go and die over on the point. Will be a couple of later picks, not really, honestly, as the ult economy has taken a big reset. The closest right now, Mookie with that Kitsune Rush.
Yeah, I mean, both teams heavily expended into the fight previous of that last one there. But great plays coming out there by Wink. I mean, I was already talking about, like, maybe they're dead in the water here. But Eevee on this Orisa, I think, just provides a little bit more sustainability, which is what they need. But you still need this DPS line, which we talked about coming in this one, how they had an incredible map 1. They've really much struggled here, while the DPS line on the other side of the Brad and Jazza, again, as I say them, have just been finding picks early on. Jazza so far, I mean, 26 kills already. They are performing out of their minds.
Yeah, and now 5v4 Kitsune Rush to try to end this thing, and bring yourself over to a tie, but you still need to find that shot to really solidify it. You're going to cause the flip to come back over right now. Eevee getting forced around. He's going to have a Terror Surge right around the corner. Honestly, this fight could be dictated as to whether or not this gets online, but Brubber is being thrown into the wall. Everything into them right now. Terror Surge is activated, pulled into. It's going to get rid of one, but just again is still popping off. Brad's coming back into this fight as well. Has a Death Blossom ready, but it's not really going to be needed here. It's the last touch is coming through, and the Death Blossom finally gets somebody right here as McMahon, try as they might, will eventually fall, and it's going to be a tied series. Elemental Normal cleaning it up.
And a much better map here for them. You get rid of the Wrecking Ball that Eevee kind of dominated you on that first map, especially on a map where maybe I talked about it a little bit being like, hey, it's maybe a little bit too much of a reactionary ban, but hey, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you won the map, and you played incredibly. Everyone did there. I mean, Brubber. But again, that DPS line, the Brad and Jazza, especially Jazza, 28 elims, 11,000 damage, the most damage in the lobby. They were finding multiple picks every engagement, it seemed, and Elemental Normal. That was the kind of map you need as a response there. Wink now, they have a tough choice to make. Well, they've already decided where we're going to be going. It's going to be Esperanza, which seems to be the default push map here this season. And Diva ban. Ooh.
Yeah, so for me, this makes sense for Wink, because I think this means they might potentially start leaning into the M-Ray now that it is available again, because obviously it was banned out earlier on. You'd be able to play it, and obviously the Diva, that is, I think, the best tank to run interference, wouldn't be able to do so, but obviously Dex, for obvious reasons, that is a double-edged sword, because they can do it, but Elemental Normal, if they decide to do it as well, they could have the exact same effect, but we'll see if that's the route they end up going. Anything's a toss-up at this point, especially with that Wrecking Ball back in play. We'll just have to see how it ends up going down.
Yeah, the Wrecking Ball's back in play, which I think is going to be a big thing here for Wink. Eevee looked really good on it. I think especially this is a really good map for the Wrecking Ball. You could definitely see it come out here. I think it's just really good in general. I think there's maybe only one or two bad push maps for the Wrecking Ball. But right now, Elemental Normal, I think not getting the Soj banned out, I think is going to be great for them. We saw what Jazz was able to do on it. If they want to play that M-Ray, I think we're going to be able to see that there. The Brad, it's going to be really interesting to see if we still see them stick on the Reaper. Well, granted, it's had its ups and downs. I don't think it's been as consistent as you want it, but granted, 18 kills, 7 deaths last round, and they finally started to get the death blossoms going there late. I think it's still doing its jobs, even if it's not finding that value. But we will know the ban here from Elemental Normal now, and they do not want to see Mickman on that Pharah. And you know what? I do not blame them.
Now, I think it's really solid. That Pharah that has kind of been a bit of a hassle to deal with, and it kind of makes you have to play a particular style to deal with it, or at the very least kind of force that hit scan a little bit more, which if you have the M-Ray, it's not the biggest issue in the world, but you want to be able to kind of headhunt things like the Tracers, force out the supports. You have that ability to do so with an M-Ray, and I like the route of going for it. It's a safe pick in its own right, while still being a targeted pick, and I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, but right now, I think you're looking at Eevee and Brubber. Both have had really good maps, have one really good map, and one that I think they would like to have back here. Heading now into a map where you have both the Winston available here. If you're Brubber, who looked really good on, or the Zarya here, which they looked really good on, and Eevee now has that the Wrecking Ball back here. It's gonna be really interesting to see here going into Esperanza, especially because this is mostly looked at as a dive map at certain parts, especially around those checkpoints.
100% it is. We'll see how it goes, though, with what we have out the gate. It is worth noting we did have a singular swap come through, with Exo coming in for the Brad in this situation here. And to be fair, makes a whole lot of sense once you see what they're running. That Zarya Vendetta combo, Exo coming into play. But outside of that, everything else remaining the same. Jazz it back over on that Sojourn as well. And even though the M-Ray is currently available, we're seeing Nadokado going to match the Sojourn here as well. And to be fair, as good as Jazz was doing, I think Nadokado was staying neck and neck almost the entire time.
Yeah, and hey, you talked about Exo coming in here. Like I said, Brad has been very much up and down on that Reaper. Granted, that's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's what you want, but I think now that you have that Vendetta back, because remember, Vendetta was banned out last map, and they definitely probably expected to see that swap come in here. But now you're going to see it here. And how are they going to deal with it? Eevee, though, not going over to the Wrecking Ball, instead going over to the Winston, which they tried their damage to make it work last map. But this map, if it doesn't work early on, they got to be able to make that change. Wrecking Ball is there. It is back for them, but still, they got to be able to pull the trigger here a little bit earlier if it does not work.
Definitely so. We'll see it until going down as EXO still hanging around waiting for that right opportunity to dive, because you know the moment EXO goes in, Eevee's going to do the exact same thing to this backline. It's literally a game of chicken as to who's going to strike first. But the more you're complacent, the more likely Jazza or Natakado is going to find someone out in this engagement. But so far, no one's willing to pick their head. No one wants to be the first one to go down, Dex. And thus far, everyone playing very safe as Mayhem almost loses their head.
Yeah, we're going back to how we were seeing the first fight go there on Lijiang Tower. Eventually, EXO will go in, that DPS line picking up right where they left off, even though EXO, this is their first map of the game.
Yeah, it sure is, but that's going to be the cleanup coming through here as Mickman going to be the first, or I should say last one to try to get out. Will be able to do so, take the reset. We'll see if there's any swaps immediately coming through, but I imagine Eevee's probably going to give this Winston another go.
Yeah, but look at that first fight. It took a minute and a half. A big chunk, especially with it only being 10 minutes there. So about, a minute 30 already gone. That is not what you wanted to be seeing here early on if you are this Wink squad. And EXO, again, just picking it up.
And yeah, and they're going to get this cap in with 2 minutes into the round. And that's an incredible amount of time. Even for Esperanza, it's phenomenal to put yourself in this position. And right now, this next fight, I gotta be honest, it feels like it's already becoming a must-win situation where if you don't get it here, you're going to be playing in desperation time for the next 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's make or break, basically. Mickman already kind of recognized that. That goes over to the Echo and said, hey, you ban out one flyer, Mickman's going to be showing us the other flyer in this game. And you have to be looking for them going in that back line, especially with the dives being coordinated here with Eevee. Oh.
Yeah. This could soon be rushed, yeah. Mickman being caught out early, not the best of scenarios. You're going to be able to get to 70 meters. Heck, you're probably going to get to 80 in a scenario like this as Eevee is really caught up for the rest of the squad. Nevelia can't provide healing anymore as the Winston goes sailing into the building, unfortunately. And this is becoming really difficult to watch as Normal is just running it down.
Yeah, and this is the thing where I think Eevee wants to probably make that swap, but they're so close to a Primal that they just say, like, I can't give it up. I can't give it up, but sometimes you have to be willing to give it up here. Jazza, though, already going in with the overclock, finding one.
Yep, and while eventually being taken out, 2 might be doing the damage already. Eevee is going to move in, though, has a Primal Rage ready to go. Might consider using it here just to clean up the fight and potentially make the swap afterwards, but Mickman goes down again getting back into this fight, and now all you can really do is keep trading and backing out, but now you're looking at 115 meters, and there's no stopping this train yet.
Yeah, and I understand what Saitman's doing there. They just put their head out a little bit too far and got punished for it. However, it looks like we're going to see a little bit of a fallback here now from Normal, and they really need to be able to get rid of Brubber, but there comes the entirety of Normal to keep them alive.
Yeah, and there comes Eevee trying to find something with the Primal Rage. Unfortunately, only can really make a little bit of space for somebody back. Does manage to force Brubber into a really weird area all the way back. But Eevee finds themselves alone for the moment being. Eventually he's going to be able to get out. Natakado clears out another one. I think got 3 during that fight. Is hoping to get a little more as it's awkward having Brubber and Mookie back here still.
And I'm surprised we're not seeing Wink go after them here. You could get a huge stagger, but no, you're going to allow them to actually regroup with their entire team. I feel like there's a little bit of a misplay coming out there from Wink. You're going to have that grab ready to go now for Brubber, and EXO has a great potential for a combo.
Yeah, and now you're going to go in, use those bubbles. Sound barrier is online. You're going to have a Graviton Surge available. Maybe if you're Mickman, you're so close. 99 is on the button. You don't get it in time, though. You just missed out on it, and that would have been defining right there. And unfortunately, without it, this is going to fall apart once more. You managed to get 1 in the process, but that's all you're going to get.
Did it say Ajax?
It's a good question. I don't think so. I'll look back at the tape on the stream, though.
But here's the thing. Like I said, I think there's a big misplay there by Wink not chasing down Brubber to try to get rid of them. That would have been a huge stagger. You would have been able to get a little bit more progress on the cart. And look what happens now. You basically don't really get anything. And the forward spawns back in control here now for ELMT Normal, halfway through the time bank here. And still, you're looking at only 10.5 meters now for Wink, and only really 1 ultimate going in this fight. The other side, though, they have that Sunring Blade, but it's going to be very hard for EXO to really find it, since it seems like Natakado has been able to find their shot again.
Yeah, certainly so, but you got to use this fight right here to start bringing this one back. You have to consider Rusty Battle through when Mookie is really far behind, or more so, it's more that Mookie got a lot earlier in usage, so Nevelia is going to be in a really good position here. But Sundering Blade is available once to find a target. Everyone gets away just in the nick of time, but still no one down quite yet. Kasuni Rush still available, but Jazza is quickly building up to the second overclock here, and still may potentially try to pull this one back around. Jazza's getting a little bit of care coming through, as Eevee is lucky to still be out of here alive, but that should be enough to clear out this fight. It does cost them the Katsuni Rush, but in a scenario like that, it feels like you had to use it.
Yeah, you needed to use it there. You needed to. You just needed something to go your way there. Narukato falling is not necessarily the worst thing here for Wing, but they probably would have ended up investing that overclock. So I think you hold on to it now. You're going to have Duplicate and this Primal Rage. And again, well, Eevee's had some struggles this map. I think you're really starting to see both Narukato and Mickman really start to pick it up for them, which is what I said they needed to do here if Eevee struggled on this Winston. But it looks like they're going to be sticking with it here, but immediately forced off the cart. You have those ultimates online here for Wing. You're going to need to play a little bit fast.
You definitely need to in a scenario like this, as Overclock is going to be ready to go. Copy there just in time to kind of stay alive. Jazza forced into the corner as well, trying to pursue somebody, as Narukado's also going to have the Overclock ready here, but Jazza does get rid of one, a real necessary one at that, to take Nickman out of this fight. And even try as they might, it's just not going to work out here, as we forced out once more, as that's another fight done and dusted. I will confirm really quick though, Dex was not an Ajax. It did indeed hit the ground.
Okay, thank you so much. I did not notice it. But again, this is just slowly starting to fall apart here now for Wing. I mean, they got off to such a good start at the start of the series back on Li Jiang, but now they are just, seems like they're playing like the shell themselves. Overclock out here from Narukato, but hey, if they can get going, like I said, this DPS line has kind of been carrying this team.
Kind of has, as Mookie is being forced out. 5 health, eventually going to go down. The problem is, you got to make sure not to lose Saint here. You can't keep taking trades. Unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening. Jessica gets rid of another back there. And Saints is just going to end up dying over on point right here. This has been like the signature way to play push for Elemental Normal.
Yeah, they're doing an excellent job of it as well, and they're finally going to be able to get the bot back up to the barrier here for the first time since, well, when they got to where the finals, or the barrier is right now. And you have Grab, which is going to be a huge thing, especially if you played a little bit early on here, because Saint will have that beat online. Katsuni Rush out here for Mookie to get everything started, and Eevee maybe going in a little bit too deep.
Maybe a little bit too much. They're in a really good position right now. Narukato is going to get 2, though, to finish out the fight. You do have Graviton Surge available. You're in a 2v2. You have the advantage realistically right here, especially with all the charge available. You have, like, the combo hanging around as well. But the respawns are coming back, and Rubber is probably going to have to eat the death here momentarily.
Mickman,
right?
Gonna barely be able to stay alive right there. That would have been a huge stagger. But you do actually see Mookie come back to Rubber. It might be at the cost of Mookie's life, and yeah, that's gonna be the case here. Rubber, though, you need to find them. You need to chase them down, honestly, but instead you go straight back. You find Exo, but you're gonna get the 4 spawns back out from them here. You need to be able to chase down the rest of Elemental Normal right now. If you are Wink, you need to get 1 staggering kill. That's at least gonna buy you some time to get the bot back to the barrier.
Yep. And they're sitting in a better position than they were before. Ton of ultimates available, but it really does just take 1 grab coming through, 1 Sundering Blade to cut them down. It's a big grab, and the cleanse is perfectly timed. But unfortunately, beat's not here in time for Mickman, and with that, they're still going to be sliced down. They play it perfectly, Dex, they really do, but in the end, with the combination of that, it unfortunately does not matter.
Just doesn't. That's the unfortunate thing. Like you said, they timed it perfectly, and normally in those situations you would really hope a perfectly timed Suzu and then a beat following it up keeps you alive through the grab and you're able to come back in with something of your own, but you just did not have that yet ready to go. Elemental Normal back in control of the cart, and Eevee now abandoning the Winston. Nope, gonna go right back over to the Winston. Looks like they had second thoughts about the Rhine, but still 36 seconds left to go. You have a long road ahead of you, about 97 meters, Matt,
About, yeah.
something 94 meters that you have to traverse to get at least this close, and only 24 seconds left to go. Essentially, if you're Wink, you cannot afford to lose a fight.
Yep, and Jessica can be looking to close this thing out very quickly. Overclock is here. Mickman's going to go ahead and copy over on the Zarya. You see everyone peel out immediately, as Mickman's going to struggle to find a lot of value here, quite frankly. This is not going to do a ton, as, again, just misses out on it, and now here we go. Hits the double, gets rid of Mickman. Flying over on the scene, he's going to keep trying to clear things out, and that... they will. It's just Eevee hanging around with Saint. Unfortunately, no retouch available. That is going to be a decisive map win right there for Elemental Normal. Puts them at match point. And that is, again, I said it once, I say it again, that is textbook play right there on Esperanza.
Yeah, very much textbook play here. And you have to remember the ban that we had there from Wink going into that map. I believe it was Diva, right? And we really thought, okay, Diva's banned out. We're going to see a little bit of Emre, but I think that was just the wrong move. If anything, you might have wanted to ban out the Zarya. You might be making that Zarya ban right now, though, as it will be Wink's last map pick and last first ban of this series if we do go 5, or if we somehow draw a map. Which is possible. I believe we did see that. Oh, hell, we saw a draw on OWCS. But yeah, Blizzard World gave me the next map. And I think you have to make that reactionary ban now, which is exactly what Wink does. They do not want to see Brubber back on that Zarya, at least not this map. They're probably okay with it seeing it next map, if they see a next map, that is.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that ends up going down. Honestly, the Zarya, it makes sense. You just don't want to have to deal with it. It kind of shuts down that combination with the Vendetta a little bit. It doesn't make playing the Vendetta impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously it helps a lot. And I think it was helping a lot during that exchange as well. Plus, with Blizzard World, you're in a lot more of an open map, I would say. You're going to have a lot more sightlines to be able to work with. A lot more areas and crevices you can kind of work with as well. And honestly, it might play more to the style that we were seeing from Wink, back to get things started all the way back on Lijiang. We'll see if that ends up going their way, though, as we just have to wait on the second ban and see if there's any swaps. But apparently, we're getting quick to the trigger as the Sojourn gets banned out.
Ooh. Interesting from Elemental Normal, especially since that's been like Jazz's go-to here these last couple maps. And when you look at the performance they had last map and the performance they had back in map 2, I mean, 25 and 28 elims is nothing to scoff at there for the Sojourn player. So getting rid of that here definitely means they're either gonna go over something like the Emre or potentially something like Ashe, where I feel like this is a weird map where Ashe could decently find some value. Bob as a stall tool is definitely viable on this map, but it becomes a very important map now for Wink, who coming into this 100, like I said, we recognize a lot of these players on Wink, really good players in their own right, and Elemental Normal was one of those, was that team was like, hey, we recognize maybe 1 or 2 of these players, but the rest were unknowns. And that's one thing that especially you have known since me and you started doing a lot of the World Cup stuff. Those unknown players are always very exciting to watch and find out about. I think so far tonight, we have been learning so much about this Elemental Normal team, looking like a really good team here now. Jazz, though, getting over to that Emre. Narukato going over to that Emre as well. But outside that, Brubber on the Diva. Eevee sticking with the Winston here. Again, this is a map where I think you could play Wrecking Ball, but it feels like they want to try to keep this dive composition going here right now. Mikmin. Ooh, I like the idea, but again, you need those coordinated dives, especially with Eevee and Mikmin. That could be a very scary combo, especially with a grenade from Narukato. I just don't necessarily know if you're going to be ready for that on the side of Elemental Normal here early on, because the only thing that Brubber could eat is the grenade from Narukato.
Yeah, and there's difficulty as well dealing with the Emre, and that's the fact that the Diva really good at taking care of it. The Winston, not so much. Not as easy to go with in a scenario like that. So there's going to be presented difficulties that happen very quickly, quite frankly. But we'll see how early it ends up kind of affecting them right now. Is, again, Jazza and Narukato, I think, really focusing on who can get that opening pick to get things started.
Nice poop out there from Mayhem to at least force Eevee away. Mikmin, though, going to be the first one to fall as Jazza, doesn't matter what hero they're playing, finds first pick.
Yeah. Really nice right there, as Eevee's just going to be secluded here. Should eventually be finished off, but actually is going to be able to back out and live momentarily. Hopefully get the rest of the squad out as well. It'd be massive, and to be fair, they are hanging about, and it's really hard to pursue anybody here.
Yeah, and I mean, Brubber not getting healing here. This could be a punchable opportunity, but no, it's just Eevee still going straight after the backline, which I completely understand, but getting the D-Mech onto Brubber would be huge.
Yeah, you are going to be able to claim the first tick away right here, as no one particularly close to any ultimates. Actually, you're getting really close to a Consumer Rush for both sides, and whoever gets Sunlight first, honestly, that could be the big decider right here as to what happens. You're right around the corner. Consumer Rush available for both sides. It's going to be pulled out immediately for both of them right now. Big dive coming through from Bubber, who is separated momentarily. They need to keep bodies over on this point, though. Big dive coming through from Eevee to try to find somebody. Unfortunately, doesn't, but Brubber getting D-Mech. It is a massive scenario for them to work with. So many low bodies. Primal Rage is here. Sound Barrier just in time as well. Saint Sword around doesn't have the Sound Barrier in time. It's 99.7%, and they won't get it.
this is a moment where you're just hoping that you could keep that percentage up, and no, it's going to fall back down to 66.6. And I mean, you're looking for it back up, not going to be able to find it now. Even though we'll find Mayhem, however, you lose Mickman and Novella early on. That's just going to force a fallback here now from Wink. So close, yet so far away. Half the time bank gone, and now a full reset is definitely needed here. Great job by Elemental Normal being able to hold on to that point here. But you're walking now to this next fight where you don't have Beat, you don't have Kitsu, you only have Bomb and Pulse Bomb. You look at the other side, Beat and that override protocol from Nadokado. That's gonna be what you're looking at here. However, Brubber playing that Diva should be able to eat it away here a little bit. This is a moment where if you're Wink, you have to play this smart. Maybe wait for the DMEC or try to force all that defense matrix out early on.
Yeah, remember, you have the sound barrier ready to go. Mayhem does not. You're in a very particular situation as Eevee's going to get caught with it. It feels like you almost have the sound barrier here in a second to put yourself in a good position, especially with Eevee going in with the aggression. Rubber being forced back. He's going to be close to DMEC. In fact, is so close to, isn't quite going to, though. And there it goes right there. Rubber is going to use the DMEC over here. Going to try to find something over here. Is going to be able to remech over on the point. Keeps them alive. Question is, does Mickman have to invest any further right here? Is going to opt to, unfortunately. It gets thrown into the void, and again, it's these DPS clutching things up. There's a DMEC coming through, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to mean a whole lot.
It's not, and now Eevee's the only one left on point here. They'll be able to find one, but it's going to be, again, Elemental Normal being able to stabilize here somehow, some way, and yet again, it was Wink getting so close, yet so far away from actually capping that point, and now look at what Wink is going to come into this next fight with. Kitsune Rush, and that is it. Elemental Normal is going to have that override. It's going to have the Pulse Bomb here. This is going to be very, very difficult here for Wink to get going here. They need to be able to find something early on. Getting rid of Jazzle will be big, but no, the Kitsune Rush is out here first from Novella.
Yep, Eevee staying alive is honestly really big as well, getting this Primal Rage on time. But the bubble's gone instantly. Eevee has to run back and stay alive. It is so desperate. Pulse Bomb thrown out. It's going to connect a little bit, but you need to be able to get a Primal Rage on here, but it will not happen. And now they're forcing their way on one at a time. They're going to get shut down, and now it is just going to be a one-fight scenario coming up here for Elemental Normal to finish this one out.
Again, I mean, it really looked like that we were going to be able to see Wink cap that first point, and I think really that was going to be something that was going to propel them throughout the rest of this map. I think the composition they were really running there with that Winston was going to eventually kind of teeter over and be the stronger composition, especially as you go through second point, as you go through third point. But I think time after time again, especially ever since Li Jiang, we've talked about it a lot. This DPS line for Elemental Normal has just been playing out of their minds. Jazza, EXO, even the Brad, even though I said they've been up and down on that win on the Reaper, it still did its job. It forced out utility. It's been doing great. Jazza and EXO, though, again, Jazza hasn't died. A big factor why you're still seeing this entire second round only be on this first point. Almost 7,000 damage, 13 kills, 13 elims. You don't even have on the other side 10. I mean, Jazza has just been incredible here. Brubber as well, being able to really stall out. I think you're seeing this entire Elemental Normal team really just play sound Overwatch, and they're playing it at the right time here. Eevee now going back over to the Wrecking Ball. This is a play, at least coming on the defensive side, Hunter, where I don't know how you feel about it. I feel like this is desperation already for them, because if Eevee dies, you're really looking at Mickman and Nadokado to be able to carry you through all these fights until they get back. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that.
Well, this is where they found success, and you've fallen back onto it right now. So you have to kind of pull the trigger on this and see what happens. And you're going to see Eevee get caught up really early. Nadokado, though, with a really good pick to kind of get things started right here. He's going to take a lot more than that, obviously, but it slows things down. But you see them right now, Dex. They're in no hurry to do anything yet.
Yeah, they're kind of just standing in line for the ride, essentially. I think they're trying to maybe bait Wink into a fight here, which, I mean, you almost lose Navilia out there, but you're not really going to get them into anything. Now that everyone's back in, you should see a really quick re-engage here. Eevee waiting for them to come around the backside, but I don't think they're ready for them to have a split play here.
No, not, and they're going to go ahead and just start rotating around, and you're going to see a transition over to the high ground, but Brubber's just going to wait for that opportunity to get the jump on literally anybody. And to be fair, it takes somebody poking the head out for a second too long to shut this down entirely. You see Mickman is up really far right there, has to use a ton of block over here. Eevee's really far invested as well. But so far, No one willing to be that one to follow her first and foremost. Remember, you can surrender a tick or two just to make sure bodies stay up and stay alive.
And again, we saw this on Li Jiang. These teams are really willing to play patiently here. Jazz are going to fall. However, you're going to find Eevee. Like I said, this could be worst case scenario here now for a Wink as you're down your tank, your main stall.
Yeah, but still, that ball can get back fast. Unfortunately, you lose what is basically a substitute tank in a sense right there. With Mickman, you let one tick go through. You're fighting your darndest to stay in this one. It's now 2. The ball does make it back in time. Is going to be able to barely get the recontention, but cannot leave the point again, or else this one is done and over with right here. Eevee touches one more time. Kitsune rushes here to force everybody away. Natakata try as they might. Just not going to be enough here as Elemental Normal, with one more bomb, complete the series 3-1. And now they, in that term as well, they also move to 3-1 on the season.
Yeah, and a really great showing here from Elemental Normal. I mean, we saw that first map kind of go the way of Wink, and it didn't really look close. We talked about it, especially with how Eevee was playing that Wrecking Ball. It seemed like Elemental Normal really didn't have a good answer for it, and I thought maybe it was a little bit of an overreactionary ban to ban it out heading into Atlas, but it seems like that was the right move for them. They got the momentum, never looked back from it either, and you saw Elemental Normal kind of change once they got that momentum. They looked like a completely different team. That DPS line, especially whether it be Exo the Brad or especially Jazza, just looked like different players from map 1 to map 2 and then on. And you were kind of looking for that back on the other side for Wink. We saw a little bit last map where Mickman and Nadokado really did pick up the slack there for a little bit while Eevee was kind of struggling there on the Winston. I think maybe that's the one thing throughout this entire series I think I would like to maybe a change here if you're Wink. I don't think the Winston was necessarily working that well for you, especially you did have Wrecking Ball back on Esperanza. You could have tried to play it there. I think it would have been something especially that would have worked out considering Elemental Normal really just wanted to stick with that Zarya, which I feel like at times the Wrecking Ball, just because of how fast you could play, does beat Zar.
It does, and I think it's a really unfortunate situation for them in how things kind of went down, because they were able to find, honestly, they found a lot of success in what they were trying to do. We saw all that success back on map 1. And unfortunately, they're not able to replicate it anywhere beyond that, and it's rough. They have points back on Atlas where it kind of goes their way. They have points where they're taking good fights over on Esperanza, but it's a too little too late scenario. And here, unfortunately, they get so close to getting that first cap. Remember, 99.7%. They unfortunately don't get it in scenarios where it feels like a majority of those fights as well, they got the opening pick and just weren't able to capitalize, or Exo or Jazza would just go in and kill too.
Yeah, I mean, Jazza, we talked about between round 1 and round 2, had no deaths. They had one death there towards the very end, but they went 16-1. And again, like I said, I believe they had 53 kills combined on maps 2 and 3. Now add this there, make that, well, a solid nice 69 if I'm doing my math right. But again, you need kind of pop-up performances from every series, whether it be someone on the DPS line or just the line itself, the tank, especially the supports. I mean, Mookie and Mayhem, again, maybe a little bit unknowns to me, and that's just me not knowing ball. But man, do they really impress. They really, really impressed throughout this entire series.
Yeah, extremely impressive overall. So Wink, unfortunate for them. We'll see how they kind of bounce back going here in the near future. I believe their next matchup, as I'm going to take a quick look over here because the thing got fixed. They have a Fallen Destiny coming up on Friday. A Fallen Destiny, a team that has, again, hasn't played yet, by the way, so we don't know how strong they are.
Shout out to the two teams that haven't played yet.
And speaking of the next, this could be very interesting for Elemental Normal, who have been on a really big tear, have had some really close games. They have Team Z coming up next this Friday. That is, wow, that's probably going to be one of their biggest tests of the season right there.
I think that's going to be a good litmus test for this team and just how far we could maybe expect them to go. Because, hey, 3-1, nothing to scoff at. I mean, you have Ivasi as well, who's sitting around that same record. But again, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think that's going to be a good bar setter. If they go out there and play very good, it's going to give us a good idea of how well this team should do in the rest of the season. Since I think a lot of people right now are looking at that Team Z as potentially the favorite. You also have the Fallen, and you still have Dilducks here in Masters tier, which I think is a team that you can never really sleep on when they're in Masters, because it doesn't matter who's on the team. They're just always strong. It's just something with being under the Dilducks name, apparently.
Yeah, basically. So it'll be exciting to see how it kind of goes down the line, but it'll be interesting to see how their seasons kind of keep developing as it goes along, because especially Elemental Normal, what they were able to do today and kind of gain that momentum back, this is a potential playoff team, which, I don't say often about the expert teams that come up into Masters, but this is one of those teams that feels like they have the potential to be able to do so. But obviously, that Limits test coming up here soon will definitely tell us quite a lot as to what is going on. Every other game, though, today, 3-0. The Extinction Zero beat Explosione 3-0. Holy crap. And then what was formerly Foxhound, now, remind me.
Fallen.
Yeah, the Fallen beat Elemental Garden 3-0. So take what you will with those results. We get a 3-1 here, solid as can be. I don't know. You got to take with it. But with that being said, anything?
No, I was gonna say.
Mr. Sean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I think Wink, though. I think this is still a team with a roster that I think just had a rough game here tonight, which definitely does happen from time to time. I think this is still a roster that this could be a playoff team. This, in my opinion, maybe should be a playoff team, but a lot of season ahead, and you never know what might happen. We've fortunately already seen one team blow up. Hopefully they're able to come back, but still, you never know what could happen here in Faceit.
Yep, we'll have to see. But that's going to be it for everything here tonight. It's not done for the week, though, but for me, it unfortunately will be. I have some things to attend to, but Mr. Dextron over here has a double feature of his own going on Friday. Agabe Faka taking on Ragnarok for South America, and then good old Extinction Zero taking on Elemental Garden for North America. Those are sure to be some good games, so just make sure go send this man a follow. Check out those games on Friday. They should be an absolute boatload of fun. I know I'll be watching them myself, sitting in a hotel room saying, it could have been me. But hey, everyone, we appreciate y'all coming out for this game. Obviously, we'll try to have the schedule out for next week as soon as we can, but things are always hectic, so who knows when that shall happen. You'll know when we know. So everybody, have yourselves a good night. We'll see you next time for some more Faceit League action. Take care, y'all.